Hey there, and welcome to Get Career Curious, the podcast that gives you the inside scoop on careers, what it takes to get there, and what the job is really like. Today, we're talking with Meagan Thomas, a marketing agency owner who's mastered PR and media management for hospitality brands, and who's also made a name for herself as a social media content creator and influencer. As the founder of Springs Native, Meagan is the go-to expert on all things Colorado Springs. Want to know how you can blend a real job while creating your own dream lifestyle? What's it really like to be an influencer? Meagan's got the answers. Let's dive in. Hi, Meagan. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Meagan, how did you get into this business?
I started as a journalist. I was a reporter at the beginning of my career. And when I moved back to Colorado, I was really having trouble finding jobs in journalism. But I started my career at that time when things were kind of switching from print to digital. And so I helped my college switch from having a print-focused newspaper to going online. And then the first newspaper I worked with, I really helped with the homepage and understanding what the consumer and reader wants in order to have them click and read stories. And so I naturally ended up moving into digital marketing, and I went and worked for a travel website company, and I managed bloggers. And I was teaching them a lot about audiences and understanding how to interact with them, via comments, and then just a lot of things that you don't learn unless you're a journalist, like AP style and how to properly create a story. A lot of these bloggers weren't writers full time. And so when I started doing that, that's how I started Springs Native, which is my influencer content creation that I do. And, there were all these travel bloggers and they were making a ton of money and getting to do a lot of cool stuff for free. And I was like, well, if all these travel bloggers are doing this, there was nothing like that in Colorado Springs. And so I said, well, I'm going to start a blog here. And it was right when Instagram was taking off. And so at the time I was writing more on my website and occasionally posting on Instagram. And eventually those kind of switched roles. Whereas now I almost never write on my blog, which I am going to start changing. Actually, I have kind of some new branding and changing that I'm doing. And then eventually from there, I was working with a lot of restaurants. Restaurants got to know me and trust me. My goal has always been to support small businesses. So they knew that I wasn't going in for a free meal. I was going in to say, like, how can I support you and help you and promote you? So I gained a lot of trust in the restaurant community. And when COVID happened, I had moved back into journalism and I was doing like digital media management essentially and some sales. And because of COVID, I wasn't going to be able to continue working there because advertisers all pulled out. No one knew what was going on. And so I essentially started looking for a job, and I helped one business owner who he didn't have any social media, he didn't have anything, and I had nothing to do and I had no job and I was just applying for jobs. And so I said, you're never going to survive this. Let me just help you for free. I would be happy to do it. Like, let me set you up a website. Let me set you up your social media accounts. Let me get you some PR going. Let's let people know about you. And that first month he sold, $40,000 worth of $7 bags of pretzels, which is crazy. That's insane. Right. And the next month, the same thing. And so these restaurants knew me. They had all this PPP money and they said, we know you, we trust you, we see what you've done. Can you help us too? We can use this money for marketing, but we don't know what we're doing. And at some point, it got to the point where I would make more money doing this versus looking for a job. So I just was like, I guess I own my own business now. This was never the plan. So that's kind of how I got started. And it's been a little bit over 5 years. And here I am. I still own my business and I'm still influencing, and it's a lot.
Yeah, you've kind of married the two different businesses. And I think what you said about volunteering to do something for free in an area that you knew you were really good at and someone was really struggling with the restaurant, that's a pretty powerful way to break into a business. So how did you help them via social media?
Identifying what their goals were and then saying, okay, this is how I can help you reach those goals. And this is what you have to do as well. I will say the thing about marketing that I think a lot of places forget when they are hiring someone is marketer isn't going to solve your business problems. Now, it's going to tell people that you're around. It's going to bring awareness and reach and all of those things. But at the end of the day, your product is what's going to get your customers to come back. And so that is somewhere that I do help a little bit more as well. I do a little bit of consulting in terms of, hey, have you thought about your customer experience in this way? Have you looked at, no one is buying this offer from you. Why? People are inquiring about it, kind of getting into the nitty gritty of that as well.
So is that through your marketing business that you do that?
Yeah. So people hire me and I come on and I say, we'll do however many photo shoots per year. We'll do so many social posts per month. If they hire me to help them with their public relations, I'll help get them on TV. I'll help bring influencers in. I'll manage all of those aspects because it's a lot to manage, especially when you don't know the people you're working with. I mean, the benefit of hiring a public relations professional is they have these relationships. So it's easy for me to go to someone and say, I trust you. I know that what your audience brings. I know that you're going to provide a good service if I say come in and have a free meal or can we pay you to partner or whatever the case is. They trust me to make that judgment call. And then it's easy for me to interact with someone because that person also knows me and knows, maybe for some reason had a bad experience. They're not going to go blast them. They're going to say, hey, we had this bad experience. And as an influencer, I've done that too. I've had really weird interactions or I've had bad experiences where I had to go back to the PR company and say, hey, this was weird. And I trust you guys because I've worked with you. So I'm letting you know because I can't post about this. It's going to ruin my reputation.
So as an influencer or the creator of Colorado Springs Native, can you talk about how that started and talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so Springs Native, it started, I had just moved back to the Springs and I grew up on the east side of town, Palmer Park Powers area. And I moved back. And when I moved back, I started making new friends and they all wanted to go out downtown or go on the west side. And I was like, I don't know what any of these things are. And I've always loved restaurants and food and lifestyle. So I would go out to these new places I'd never heard of. And by the time I would go a second time, it would be closed or they would be really struggling. And I was like, well, I'm looking for these new places. I'm trying to find these restaurants and it's hard for me to find it. If there are people who don't even know where to look, these restaurants would never survive without someone to kind of help and tell them about them. And so that's kind of where I got the idea from seeing all these bloggers. I was working with bloggers and I was like, well, I'm going to start a food blog. Because at the time, we didn't have anything aside from the Gazette and the Indie. Those were the two ways that you got your information about restaurants. There were no food bloggers or influencers here. So that's how I began. Through the years, it just evolved. It originally was only food. And as people got to know me and say, oh, you're a Springs native. Like, I know you know about restaurants, but I just moved here. Where do I get my nails done? Where should I get my hair done? What gym should I join? All of these different things they'd have questions about. And I was like, yeah, I could tell you about those things too. And so over the years, it slowly evolved from just food to small businesses. And it evolves with me because it's my brand. I get to do what I want. That's the thing that's the most fun about it. And so now it's kind of evolved. It's more lifestyle. It's not just food in Colorado Springs. I also travel a lot. So I post about where I travel. I post about places I like to go to. And it's starting to focus a little more on the things that I love versus just the things that we have to love in Colorado Springs.
And I think what's interesting when people think of an influencer, a lot of times you get the perception that they're just doing it to get famous or get a lot of followers. And what I love about your story is you generally wanted to help other people in Colorado Springs find cool places to go eat. And I love how your brand has evolved. And what advice do you give to other people who are considering becoming an influencer? Is the market super saturated?
I mean, it is. Everyone is an influencer. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a social media. There's a few things, right? The first thing is it's not as fun as it looks. It is my job to make it look like I am out. Everyone's always like, oh, you're always out and about. You're having so much fun. You are living the dream. And I have one of my good friends. I love him because he'll be like, yeah, I was talking to someone and they were like, oh, Meagan just has the most fun. She's always having a good time. And he's like, I always have to tell them Meagan's the hardest working person that I know. And that might be true for some. That might be not true for others. It's just that, people see these influencers online and they're going on these brand trips and they're, eating somewhere that is hard to get into and they have new clothes and they're selling a lifestyle. That is their job. So what people forget is they're seeing all this fun stuff and, sometimes an influencer will get on and be like, I have such a hard day. And people like to, get on Reddit or get on the internet and make jokes about, well, they're just going to Pilates and filming, getting coffee with a friend. And it does seem that way because that's how they make it seem. That's their job to make it seem easy. It is a lot of work. It is exhausting because you're constantly having to film everything that you do. And it's exhausting because you have to be on. People recognize me in person and come up and say hi. I don't get to have a bad day and be rude to someone. I wouldn't want someone to be rude to me. It's a lot of having that on personality. And then it's a lot of knowing what's going on and paying attention. And then there's the back end of it as well, which is making those brand deals, deciding what's worth not being a part of, deciding how much you're going to charge someone, deciding if you're willing to take a lower amount of money because it's a business you believe in or someone you just want to help. It's a lot of someone always wants something from you. That I think is what I personally struggle with the most because I'm maybe a little too empathetic, but it can get really, really exhausting when someone is constantly asking you, regardless if they want to pay you or not. A lot of times people don't want to pay you because, again, they don't see this as work. It's a lot of energy to have people constantly saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And then when you tell people, like, actually, I have a rate, and that's even if I like your business, because for me, if it's a business I've never been to, I don't just say yes right away. I say, whether you're comping me or you want to pay me, I want to come try your product first because I'm not going to endorse somewhere that I don't like or believe in. That ruins my credibility.
So as an influencer, what if you don't like a brand? Do you just step away? Because I don't think I've ever seen you post anything super negative about a business.
So it depends. So my goal when I started Springs Native was to support small businesses. It's all personal preference. That's the thing about food. Right. And that's why I don't usually do a negative post.
Okay.
When it comes to big companies like McDonald's or Taco Bell or, these huge chains, I'm not sitting here saying, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. But I'm going to say, like, maybe you should spend your money at a local restaurant versus getting this thing.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, you know what? I was pleasantly surprised and it's worth checking out once. Because while my goal is always to support small businesses, let's be realistic. Everyone goes to a chain every once in a while. And it's silly to try to pretend like we don't. As much as you want to support small local businesses, we're all human. Sometimes that's not the case. But when it's a small business that approaches me, if I go on my own and I just don't enjoy it, then no harm, no foul. I don't have to explain myself to anyone about not posting whatever. But if someone offers me a comped meal, essentially what I say is, thank you so much for inviting me. I would love to come check out your restaurant or whatever the case is. And I'm happy to try it for free if you're willing to comp me. However, if for some reason I don't like your restaurant or I have a bad experience, I want you to understand that I will not be posting about it regardless of if the meal was free. If you are okay taking that risk and you believe in your restaurant, your product, whatever it is, I am happy to come. I appreciate the free meal, whatever the case is. If not, then when I get to your restaurant, I'll get to your restaurant. And if I don't like it, again, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to post anything negative. I'm not going to post that I enjoy it if I didn't. And so most places say, totally get that. We respect it. We appreciate that. And we think you'll love us. So yes, please come. Every once in a while, I'll have someone say, well, we're going to give you a free meal and you're just not going to post about us. And I'm like, well, no, if I like you, I'll post about you. But also you're not paying. Again, a free meal doesn't pay my bills. And it's really hard to explain that to people. I think, there's a stigma that influencers just want a free meal or just want something for free. And it's like, no, I don't just want it for free. But if you're inviting me into your restaurant and I'm taking that time to come in, you giving me the free meal is the equivalent of me giving you a post for free. It's a business. And so that's the part that I think is kind of hard to explain to people who don't really understand it. And that's where I give that notice so that way no one can say, oh, she came in and ate for free and never posted about us.
Talk a little bit about social media. People think social media is super fast and easy.
You're hitting the nail on the head. It's so easy to say, well, you're just making a couple posts.
Posting.
And I'm like, well, if that's the case, then why aren't you doing it yourself? And that's always my first response to a lot of the people who are, when you tell a restaurant your rate, and I'm very reasonably priced because I like to work with restaurants. So my price is probably, I hate to say that it's lower than what it should be, but it is because I like to work with restaurants and they just don't have those dividends to be able to pay me more money. That's what makes work enjoyable for me, is working with businesses I like. So I'm willing to take that pay cut because I enjoy who I work with. Now, that said, social media isn't just you post and hope it works. There's a lot of components to it. And one of my friends who also owns a marketing agency, Bonnie, she does a lot of SEO and paid social and a lot of other strategic marketing. And she posts a lot about how organic social isn't going to change your business. And she's 100% correct. Now, I mostly do organic social and paid social. And so I have friends who'll be like, well, don't you see that and think like it feels like an attack on you? And I'm like, well, no, because she's not saying organic social media is worthless. She's saying it's not going to change your business. And she's right. Every marketing strategy you have should all work together to create an overall plan. And a small part of that is your organic, and it's a supplement to everything else that you're doing. Now, when you have a budget, you can only pick and choose so much. And so that's kind of where you hire an expert to say, this is what's going to help you the most. Or that's where you just decide for yourself what it is. But, it's not, even when it comes to that, when I'm posting for my clients, I say, okay, what else do you have going on so that I can see what is going to make the most sense for what I'm posting? So I have one client who works with a completely different SEO agency, and I'll say, can you guys send me over what keywords you're using this month? Can you send me over what your content and goals are for the website and things that you have going on, so I can implement that into what I'm doing so we can work together so that this company isn't wasting their money paying me, which again, it would never be a waste. It's just going to be so much more effective when you're doing those things. And that's where people don't really understand that, no, it's not just posting. It's looking at everything and saying, let's come up with a strategy that makes sense. What are your goals? What needs to get done? And that's where your social media becomes effective. I think the other thing, and this is an aside, but also a little bit on topic, is a lot of people are just like, well, I just want my videos to go viral. Or I see a lot of restaurants posting these really cool videos that are going viral and getting a lot of attention. But going viral, especially for a brick and mortar business that is not online, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have people coming in and sitting down and eating there. And so, yes, it's really important to get in front of a bigger audience. But unless that audience is A, in the area that you're servicing, and B, understands what the product is you're offering, going viral does nothing. It's just an entertaining video that they're going to click like and move on. But a picture, a beautiful photo of food is going to make someone say, oh, I want to take a first date there. Oh, I want to go eat there. And so that's where that comes in. Whereas maybe some of my content's not going viral for my clients, but it is giving them a consistent place where people go and look and say, yeah, I want to go eat there. Yes, that's somewhere that I think would be great. And they understand what the concept is when they go there, so that it's going to make the restaurant be more successful in expectations for the people coming in to eat, and just in people understanding what it is that they offer.
Yeah, you're really a digital content strategist. There is a strong content strategy around what you're doing.
Yes.
And to that point, if someone was in high school or college and thinking about going into digital marketing, what is your advice?
Well, my number one advice is to learn how to make people like you. This sounds like a crazy thing to say, but I honestly attribute my success with people and getting clients, as well as my success online, with that. Understanding what people want and how to deal with people and figuring out how to get them to like you. That is what marketing is. Marketing is, how do I get people to like my brand? And so when you can understand how to work with people and get what you need, you're going to be a lot more successful in marketing, because that's a lot of what marketing is. The second part of it is Marketing, and you'll see this on LinkedIn a lot. In marketing, you are constantly fighting for your budget. So let's use a restaurant, for example. Let's say that they're on a strict budget. They can't get rid of their food budget. They have to buy food to serve to the client. They can't get rid of their overhead, electric, building, whatever. Like, you need those things to have your restaurant. You can't get rid of just your regular staffing, because if you don't have a server, no one's serving the food. So where's the first place that they cut when they're trying to cut budget? Marketing. And so you constantly are needing to prove, I am worth this budget. I am worth this budget. When you're understanding how to make people like you, it's a lot easier to fight for your job because they don't want to let you go. It's a lot easier to let go of someone you dislike. And this is one of those things where maybe it's controversial that I'm saying that, but that's just, I think, a career advice in general. It's much easier for you to keep a job when you're well-liked and you're easy to work with. I can tell you, even as an influencer, if I work with an agency and the person I'm working with is difficult to work with, I sometimes will be like, this brand deal isn't even worth it to me. It's not worth the stress. This person is a jerk. And so with marketing, a lot of it is you're representing a brand, even if you're working with the influencer and you're not the face of the company or you're not customer facing, that is still so important. Marketing is sales in a different way. You really just need to learn how to be able to work with other people. The next thing is when you're taking your classes, if you're interested in public relations, I highly, highly recommend being on your college newspaper, being on your high school newspaper, or if you're interested more in TV, do that. I think a lot of my skills that I've learned in marketing all came from learning how to interview people as a journalist. When you're a journalist, you learn how to talk to people, how to understand what it is they need. And that all really comes in handy when you're in marketing because you need to learn that. The other part of it is, as a journalist, what did you like when brands were pitching you? What did you like when people were pitching you a story? And so when you learn the easiest thing that's going to work for them, that helps you do your job. It's easy for me to go to the news station and say, a lot of people put out these press releases and no one wants to read that crap. They don't.
Right.
No, they get 1 million of those. They all look the same. No one wants to read those. What I usually do, I reach out to my contact and I say, hey, how are you? I have a story for you. Give them the quick gist of it. Who, what, when, where, why. I literally will say, this is the date. This is why it would be a good news story. This is the people. Are you interested or not? Or do you have questions? Yeah. They don't want to read a big piece of paper. They don't care. They have zero interest to care. And so learning what it is that they want, again, that's going to help you because as a PR professional, if they like you, they want to come to you for stories. If you're interested in marketing, spend some time doing those extracurriculars that are like journalism. And then just, again, working on your people skills. That will get you far, I think, in every career, but especially in something like public relations and marketing. I think it's...
Yeah. And it's also important as an entrepreneur. So can you touch on what are your favorite parts of owning your own business and why do you do it?
Yeah. So my favorite parts are flexibility. Because I'm also an influencer, I need that flexibility to be able to, if I have a hotel that reaches out to me and is 2 hours away and says, hey, we want you to come next week and stay Thursday through Saturday. If I have a normal job, I can't just take off 2 days next week. Like, I only have so much PTO. I have, they want me in the office, whatever the case is. Whereas if that's the case for me, I can say, okay, I'm going to switch around my whole schedule. Maybe I'm going to work through the weekend, which we'll get to the working on the weekends part when we get to the negatives of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But, I can easily change around my schedule. I can say I want to take a trip and plan whatever I need to around it. I'm able to be in full control of myself. And when it comes to income, the options are really limitless. Like, I can take on as many clients as I want to if I want to earn more money. I'm not stuck with a salary. I don't have to ask a boss for a raise. I am in charge of my own fate, which is both good and bad. And I get to do what I like. So I'm enjoying doing more influencing stuff right now. So my schedule's a little bit heavier with that. Whereas I have seasons of my life where I'm like, you know what, I kind of just want to pick up more clients and not do as much and kind of coast with influencing. So it just depends, but I'm in charge of my own future. I mean, it makes it so that you are the one in charge of your own life. And that's really what being an entrepreneur, that's the whole reason you do it.
Yeah. And so many people want to do it. And you and I both know it requires a ton of hard work. While it looks like, oh,
Mhm.
you have such a great schedule, you can do what you want. Actually, I think,
It's harder.
yeah, it is. So can you talk about what are the scary things or the hard things about being on your own?
The number one scariest thing is, can I pay my bills every month? If all of my clients were to leave me, would I be okay? The second scariest also with that is when you have employees. I go through phases where I do and don't. When I do have employees, their income is in your hands. And that's very scary to say, if I lost all my clients, am I going to have to fire someone? Are they going to be able to find another job to make that up? Are they going to be able to pay their
Yeah.
bills? That's terrifying. And I think that that's probably the scariest part. Other things that are hard. Yeah, I can do what I want. I might be golfing at noon on a Wednesday, but you know what? That means that I'm probably working until 10 p.m. that night, or I worked a lot earlier in the week, or I'm working through the weekend. I mean, there's not a day that I don't check my email. I don't get to do days off really, especially when I don't have a bunch of employees right now. So I don't have that second in command where I can just scooch off and take some time off. That I think is really the other part that's the hardest. But, it is what you make it. If I have a slow season, it's my job to go and find clients. Or if I want a slow season, that's my prerogative to decide, you know what, I don't really need the money right now. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break from looking for clients and I'm just going to coast. But I would say the responsibility is a lot. And if you don't have the personality to where you can push yourself to do things on your own,
Yeah.
it is not for you. And it's not for everyone. I have a lot of
Right.
people will come to me and say, I'm thinking of starting my own business. And I tell a lot of them, I don't know that I would if I was you. Like, look at what your life is. I don't have children. I don't have a husband. I have a mortgage, but I am in a spot where I'm okay. And I got really lucky when I started my business. It just was by chance. I happened to lose my job. I was in an okay space. Like it all worked out well. I don't know that I would have had the guts to quit a job and just start my own business on my own had that not been the case.
You could have done a side hustle. This could have
Yeah.
been, you could have started your influence.
Yeah, and I was for sure doing a lot of other stuff on the side. I always have had like 3 jobs. That's just who I am. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
I work a lot, which is why I'm okay being an entrepreneur because I've always worked this much. I don't think that's the case for everyone. I have a lot of people that I know who are like, I work my 40 hours. Don't call me after hours. Don't bug me if it's on the weekend. I'm not working overtime unless I'm getting paid for it, whatever those cases are. That's great. That's your prerogative. If that's who you are, don't be an entrepreneur. This is not the job for you. If you think you're going to work 40 hours a week or less, this is not something you should do.
So another area I wanted to touch on with you, because, I think everyone's thinking about the future of social media, content creation is AI. So how are you incorporating AI into your strategy and how you're working with your clients?
So I think I'm really lucky because since I work with small businesses, a lot of what I do honestly cannot be replaced with AI. You can't replace understanding and knowing a community and people with AI. It's you can't. However, sometimes I hop on ChatGPT and I'm like, can you help me write a caption for this? Can you fix this photo to have this in it? Those types of things are really where ChatGPT or AI are really helpful for me. But because I work with smaller businesses that need that local touch, that need that human touch, that people want to feel connected to the business, that's where I'm lucky in that I don't feel threatened by AI. However, I do think a lot of bigger businesses are trying to automate things. And again, that's where your marketing only does so much. That's where your customer service comes in. And it's like, you know what I hate? When I can't get a person on the phone. And that's kind of where that downfall from AI is it's helpful to an extent, but eventually you do need people. And so it always is definitely that fine line of where can it help and where will you lose customers because you're relying on it too heavily. So I do see some different brands or businesses using AI, and you could tell the caption is just fully AI created, and you're like, you didn't even edit it? Like, At least fix it up a little bit. Like take out the M dash that people talk about so it doesn't look like it's a Chat GPT response.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you touched on is that it's not going to get replaced is that personal touch. And a lot of what you do, and we really didn't touch on it thus far, is community building events. And is that part of your Springs Native business that you're working on, community events? Or
Yeah, I would think it's a little bit of both. I think that when you own a small business, part of fostering your customer base is fostering community. So with Springs Native, I love to do things for the community because it's important to me. I care about the community. Clearly, that's a lot of what I do is meant to help others. And so when I have any type of community events, that's kind of the goal. If I make money off of it, great. But a lot of times it's let's foster this community. Let's get people to know the restaurant or business, or let them get to know me, or whatever the case is. And then with my clients, the goal is always, how can we bring in new people? How can we let the community know that we care? Because at the end of the day, if there's two exact same businesses and one of them shows they care more about the community, people tend to choose the one that they feel that relationship with versus the other. The other part of it is something called parasocial interaction, which is what you build a lot online. And now that social media has really taken off, parasocial interaction, people talk about it a lot. It's really interesting because when I was in college, you talked about it in like your media ethics class, and most people had never heard of it at that point. Originally applied mostly to TV. Now it applies to social media because people do videos, you talk to them, you watch people's lives on social media. So when you see videos or whatever it is, however you're consuming your media, and you build a relationship with that person, that's why when Pete Davidson announced that his girlfriend was pregnant yesterday, everyone was talking about it. A lot of people were so happy for him. A lot of women were devastated because Pete Davidson's got a baby with someone else. And it's weird, right? Why would you really be devastated about that? But it's because you spend so much time consuming this media with this person, you build a one-sided relationship. So a good example of this is when Friends went off the air. Friends had been on the air for 10 years, and it was a weekly show. It came into your living room. And so people, that was their routine. They watched it every week. Ross and Rachel were their friends. And so when it went off the air after 10 years, there was research that showed people went into depressions, and they didn't understand why. And it was because they felt like their friend had died because they were so used to seeing them. They built a one-sided relationship, and it's in the back of your mind. It's not something that you actually think they're your friend. It's just that your brain does. And so that's kind of what happens with social media. That parasocial interaction happened. And so in a business sense, when you can say, okay, I want to make that parasocial connection stronger, how do you do that? When people see me on the street and say, hey, you run that Instagram account, and I'm nice to them and we chit chat for a few minutes. And maybe afterward, I will message them on Instagram. I'll remember what their name was, and I'll message them and say, hey, it was so nice to meet you today. That makes people feel good. I like when people do that to me. And so I do it to them. Do I do that because I'm like, oh, this is going to be great for business? No. But is it good for business? Yes. And so that's where that community thing comes in, is having those events makes people get to know you, get to know your business, feel that stronger parasocial connection with you, build that loyalty. And then those people are more loyal to you, or more loyal to your brand, or more loyal to your business. And two things can be true at once, right? You can do something and it can be good for the community, but it can also just be good for your business as well. It can be both of those things.
Yeah, that is fabulous advice. I mean, for anyone wanting to get into social or promote their business, I love that advice. If someone were wanting to be a influencer or digital marketing strategist, what skills or experiences or certifications do you think would set them apart in the job market?
As an influencer, I would say learning and understanding the business side of things, understanding the analytics and what that means. I know a lot of influencers who are I'll ask them about the demographics and they're like, oh, I have no idea. I could tell you what my demographics are. I can tell you how many followers I have. I could tell you what types of posts do the best. I could tell you all sorts of things from the back end of things. Knowing and understanding that is going to make you better at your job, A, to post and to create content that you know that your audience will like, but B, to sell yourself to the places that are going to pay you. Because at the end of the day, and I'm not ashamed to say this, and I think a lot of people, money is such a taboo thing because I do agree. You want to have a job you love. You want to do something you enjoy.
Yeah.
You spend most of your life at work, right?
Right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, a job is what pays your bills. And sometimes there's a lot of things that I don't like about my job that I don't want to do. That's not fun. And that's okay. But what can I do to offset those things that I don't like and don't want to do? I can make more money. And that's going to give me the freedom to be able to do what I like to do more. And so, yeah, that's something people don't like to say. Like, I don't want it to seem like I'm the selfish person. All I care about is money. But at the end of the day, like a job is what pays you. Money is freedom to be able to do the things you really want to do. And so learning about the business side of what you're doing, content creation looked like a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, it's a big business, and these creators are getting paid a lot of money for a reason, and understanding that reasoning and what your worth is and how you can, maximize your chances of getting paid, maximize your chances of getting opportunities and creating the best content you can. Like that is what I think I would really suggest learning about.
Awesome. That's great advice. And, I know money is taboo, but at the end of the day, everyone needs to make a living.
Yeah.
And so I think the way you go about it, serving your clients and serving our community is so valuable and, purposeful. So, I think you deserve all those
Thank you. That's
kudos.
nice. I appreciate it.
One last question.
Okay.
Where can people find you on social if they want to learn more about you or follow your business?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Springs Native, one word. You can find me on TikTok at Meagan M. Thomas, Meagan M. Thomas. You can find me on YouTube, Eat with Meagan, which that actually is probably going to change soon. But you can find me on YouTube as well. If you ever just look up Meagan Thomas, Colorado Springs, that's me. There's only one of me here, so you can find me that way too if you just want to Google it.
Yeah. And if you come to Colorado Springs, she gives the best advice on where to go. Thanks for listening to this episode of Get Career Curious. Before you head out, let's quickly recap some of the valuable wisdom Meagan Thomas shared with us today. First, start with your strengths. Meagan turned her background in journalism and storytelling into a creative business, showing how your side interests or college skills can totally set you apart. Second, build trust, not just a following. It's about real connections. Meagan grew her brand by genuinely supporting local businesses and building relationships, not by chasing clout. Third, embrace your learning curve. Managing both a marketing agency and an influencer brand wasn't overnight. She learned on the job, adapted, and wasn't afraid to try new things. For more unfiltered advice on careers, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you know a friend who's all about being an influencer, send this episode to them. They'll thank you later. Catch you next time on Get Career Curious.